Lisa, I want to start with you. You covered the Trump administration in the first go-round-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, we all did, and
Yes.
I'm going to get to you in one second, Brian. But let's just kind of zoom in on Epstein, because I talked about the politics, but let's talk about some of the personalities and the policy here, because this, to me, is like, wow. Okay. First, she says about Pam Bondi. I think Pam Bondi completely whiffed on appreciating that that was the very targeted group that cared about this, meaning she's talking about a moment at the very beginning of the second term where they brought in influencers and gave them binders, and they were not satisfied with it. First, she gave them binders full of nothingness. Then she said that the witness list or the client list was on her desk. There is no client list, and it sure as hell wasn't on her desk. Okay. Then fast forward to that moment when Todd Blanche, who was the president's personal attorney, and now the deputy attorney general, went to see Ghislaine Maxwell in prison and talked to her, interviewed her, and then released the recordings. She reveals that she and the president didn't know anything about it. Most importantly, the president didn't know about it. According to Wiles, it was Blanche's suggestion. The president was ticked. The president was mighty unhappy. I don't know why they moved her. Neither does the president. And when I said know about it, know about the fact that they moved her to a cushier situation in prison. And then on Bill Clinton, there is no evidence Bill Clinton visited Epstein's island, according to Wiles. As for whether there was anything incriminating about Clinton in the files, the president was wrong about that.
Well, this is a series of disclosures about how the White House effectively is what she's saying mishandled this Epstein situation. It's, I think it's something that, those of us who have been following this story, who have been watching how it's been received in MAGA world, it's not particularly surprising, but it's shocking to hear her say it and to hear the chief of staff of the White House admit that effectively they blew the handling of the Epstein files. There's one thing that I wanted to point out where she talks about Ghislaine Maxwell and says the president doesn't know, why. She says the president didn't ask for her to be moved, doesn't know why she was moved. There's a really important caveat there where Vanity Fair went back to her and asked, updated, because whenever that interview happened, it clearly was a while ago, and asked, well, do you know now? We're about to publish. Do you know now why she was moved to the minimum security prison?
Yeah.
And she responded that they printed that she still didn't know, which indicates that she knew this piece was coming, that the magazine had gone back to her and asked for follow-up, which is a pretty clear tell that she was really given some advance notification that this was coming. We're asking for whether, a follow-up on this interview we did a while ago, and this is coming. So she had to know. She had to anticipate this was coming out.
And copies were even circulating last night. I read an embargoed copy of this last night. Wiles knew about this at least a couple days in advance. I used to write for Vanity Fair, so I know the fact-checking process is very vigorous. Editors, fact-checkers, they go over the quotes, they go over the sourcing, they go back to the subjects of a story like this, and that's what happened in this case with Wiles. Apparently she claimed that she didn't say it, and then the Times, the New York Times was able to listen to the tape from Chris Whipple. And who is Chris Whipple, right? He is the person who wrote the book about chiefs of staff. He has convened chiefs of staff in the past. Clearly, she was confiding in someone she thought she trusted, right? Someone who wrote a book about chiefs of staff. Maybe she was thinking about her own legacy, but she's telling the truth, right? All these quotes are accurate. People have speculated about Elon Musk's drug use for years. There have been concerns about Musk's drug use for years. Trump has an alcoholic's personality. What do we say every time he goes on a tirade on Truth Social? We say he sounds like the drunk at the end of the bar.
Which I just want to say one thing.
I know he doesn't drink.
Right. And not only does he not drink, he has a brother who passed away because of addiction, and that is why he is an avowed sober man.
Yes. And yet, every time he goes on a tirade on Truth Social, people say he sounds like an alcoholic. He says, what else did she say? Bondi, whiffing on the Epstein files. We've all been saying that all year long. She says the president was wrong about Clinton. That's true. That's accurate. So it's really notable here that she's simply telling the truth, and that's what the scandal is.
We actually have, I should say, in addition to the text that I was just saying as we went on the air that I was getting, and others are as well, we are seeing not only Susie Wiles come out and say what she said, I read at the top. Caroline Levitt is supporting her. Russ Vought, who Susie Wiles called a right-wing zealot, is come out on social media and said that he fully supports her. J.D. Vance, the vice president, just spoke about this. Let's listen.
Unfortunately, I have to ask a bit of an off-topic question from affordability because news events do intervene, and that is the interviews that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles gave to Vanity Fair, in which she's quoted as referring to you as, excuse me, and again, not my words, sir, but a conspiracy theorist of a decade, and described your transformation from someone who once opposed President Trump to now his vice president as an act of political expediency. And I'd like to give you the chance to respond to that, sir.
Well, first of all, if Susie, I'll trust what you said. I haven't looked at the article. I of course have heard about it, but conspiracy theorist. Sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true.
Okay. He also said that he is never seen anything other than loyalty from Susie Wiles. And Abby, I just want to also add that in addition to Susie Wiles saying that he is a conspiracist in this article, she also said that Vance, because he was very vocally against Donald Trump in the first go-round, that he kind of came around to Trump for political reasons. But she also said, if Vance runs for president, he will be the nominee, and I will be one of the first people to support him.
I mean, this is just an astonishing story, and this isn't just an interview where she said a few things here and there. This is a full Washington burn book that she's done, and she's covered all of her bases. But what is fascinating about it is that she is much closer to the storm than most people in Washington. But a lot of the things she's saying are being said by Republicans with ties to Capitol Hill. These are the things they're saying privately, and she's saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, I mean, in a big way. Okay, let's talk about a couple of other. There's so much in here. So there's part one and part two. So there's a lot to go through. Let's just do a little policy on Maduro and what's going on with the drug boats and in Venezuela in particular. She did say that this is a war against drugs, but then she also said, quote, he, meaning the president, wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle, and people way smarter than me on that say he will, AKA regime change.
Right, and certainly that has been the focus of speculation around what the White House is doing here, but it's not what the White House is saying, and it would have, foreign policy implications for them to say that out loud. So again, this is another example of her sort of saying the quiet part out loud, sort of confirming what was the widespread speculation about the White House's moves, and it's quite shocking to read it. And
the other policy issue that she talked about, well, lots of policy issues. She talked about the fact that the president is not a warmonger, she said, but she does want him to switch back to kitchen table issues, and she expects him to do that. She talked about the deportation process. In March, after sending 238 immigrants to Salvadoran prison, she said, I will concede that we've got to look harder at our process for deportation, Wiles told me at the time. Then, for context, ICE deported a mother being treated for stage 4 cancer. Wiles couldn't explain it. It could be an overzealous Border Patrol agent. I don't know. I can't understand how you make that mistake, but somebody did. Wow. And then, Brian, there's the issue of score settling, right, which is a term that she used. Yeah. She said back in March, or Chris Whipple said, back in March, I asked Wiles, did you ever go into Trump and say, look, this is not supposed to be a retribution tour? And she said, yes, I do. We have a loose agreement that I'm not sure if we have this. We have a loose agreement that, there you go, that the score settling will end before the first 90 days are over. Well, first of all, that didn't happen.
Right.
And before you come in, I just want to add one other thing while we're on this topic. What about accusing Letitia James of mortgage fraud? She was asked by Chris Whipple, and then she responded, well, that might be the one retribution.
This is what I mean. The scandal is always just saying the truth out loud, just admitting what everyone else knows is going on, what Republicans say in private, and she just happens to have been saying it in front of a tape recorder. And she was saying this over the course of a year, right? So different interviews, different times, that creates some context for this. And now she's going to claim, and she is claiming on X, that she was taken out of context, that a lot of context was discarded, disregarded. Maybe Whipple will now come out with the tapes, but it does seem like to me a situation where she was in a very, candid situation. Maybe she was talking, not that she thought she was not on the record, because she knows the whole time Chris Whipple is an author who writes for Vanity Fair, so there's no excuse. But maybe it's one of the situations where you're talking for hours, you're talking in a really casual way, maybe you forget the tape recorder is rolling. I'm wondering if that's the best way to explain some of this material, because it is so honest and all on the record.
But she is a deeply savvy operator. This
Very
is someone who
savvy.
has been around politics for a really long time.
Right.
And you would think that she's someone that knows. At one point in the article, they reference her doing her laundry while she's talking about the divides of the MAGA movement or whatever.
Right,
and you would think even in that
Even
context,
then, yeah.
she would understand. And particularly given this administration's approach to the media.
Right.